We'll call this the Red Pill Breakdown After Dark. Inspired a little bit by Edward Anderson's stream, really kind of motivated me, if anything is a proper word, to make this video. And it's really about women in this space, a breakdown of this space. I don't know if I'll make this into two videos, but let me just get into it. This space, the manosphere, the black manosphere, is an emotional space. This space is not for logically minded people. We can apply all types of logic to it. It is based in emotion. It is predominantly emotion based. The decisions that we make, the talking points that we have, and the things that we say is mainly emotional. There are very few people that try to take that emotion, the emotional or emotionality out of it and try to apply logic to it so that you can actually redirect that emotion and put it towards something that is going to be fruitful into your later years in your life. But this space is emotional in nature. This space is not a space to where we look at things through a Vulcan-like mindset, where we look at things with some degree of, or high degree of logic. We look at a lot of these things as from the filter or through the filter of, or the rose-colored glasses, if you will, of our experiences and how we've quote unquote been hurt. This is why things like the red pill rage is such a big thing, and what I like to even coin the maroon pill, if you will, where it's beyond red pill and a lot of guys just cannot get out of it, and they kind of really sit and brood in their red pill rage state. The red pill rage should be a point where it allows for you to be receptive to better programming, but in most cases, or sorry, not in most cases, in some cases you can really be consumed by the content, which is why I always promote men taking breaks to a certain extent, and also being given the content in a certain ways, or at certain times. For instance, I have friends that go through things and I send them content, but I don't try to send them the crazy stuff or the really deep stuff or even the highly logical stuff. I send them content that actually speaks to their emotions, that speaks to their current mindset and what they're going through in terms of their situation, and it helps them cope with the issue that they're having more than anything. And it's not really so that I can convert them. It's really so that they can actually be at peace with the issues that they're going through, and they can see that, hey, they are not alone. This is not new. This happens very often. They are not a unique snowflake, and I think that is the best way to approach it. Now, that is me projecting a little bit of my own agenda on there, but I also have to step back a little bit. Recently, I had a friend going through some stuff, and I sent him a little bit of Kevin Samuels, a little bit of BGS. I won't send him Edward Anderson, because he'll really go in. I won't send him, BGS panels or anything like that. But I'll send him videos that talk to, what we're talking about at the time. I will send him videos from T.S.on Johnson about intimate partner violence, and also black male humanity, and how we as black men, from the point of being boys, how we are groomed to be gyno serfs, gyno concubines, if you will. And the fact that we as men don't really know that until it's quote unquote too late in some cases. He often remarks on how ruthless I am when it comes to women. And I'm not ruthless, it's just more or less like I just don't put up with women's bullshit. Even I had my mother here over the weekend, and I just, like, she has her friend with her, and I just don't sugarcoat it because her friend is around. I'd be like, listen, mommy, you're just talking to talk. Like, just get to the point. Like, my mom does this all the time, and I've been with her long enough to realize, what her behaviors are and how to handle it and get to the point to where it doesn't, like, hinder my entire day. And I don't know how this woman feels about it, or her friend, her friend that came with her, but it is what it is. I'm not just gonna sit here and tolerate this stuff because somebody else is around. I'm not gonna fake the funk, if you will. And that's kind of how I treat women on a regular basis. If I don't hear, like, I send a woman a text and the text does not get a response, I don't send a text anymore. I don't make phone calls first or anything like that. I might make a phone call after a while or something like that. And some women feel certain ways about that, but I can't read minds. These are just the experiences that I have to deal with. Or these are the behaviors that I've developed with the experiences that I've had to deal with in the past. I've talked about, in the past, catching a clue. I found that after 2 to 3 text messages, or a combination of 2 to 3 text messages and phone calls, if a woman does not respond, you have to catch a clue that she doesn't want to talk to you. Because learning about women and female nature, you will understand that women will do any and everything to communicate with the person that they actually do like. Once you understand that and know that, you can move accordingly. And that's what the space is about. That's what, coming out of the Red Pill Rage is about, is men giving this type of information, this quote unquote game, giving up this giving up this these oh man how would you say, something, engagement, rules of engagement. So this is men giving up the rules of engagement and how to deal with women on a regular basis, and how to deal with women from not a standpoint of superiority, elitism, of trying to win, but dealing with women from a standpoint of understanding, and dealing with women from a standpoint of knowing who you are, knowing who they are, but more importantly, understanding what these outcomes mean, what these behaviors mean. So that's kind of like the important thing, and that's what this space is really about, is learning these things and pushing this information to men. This space is about programming. Now, in my Red Pill content, I've talked, on my Red Pill breakdown content previously, I've talked about women, emotional programming. You'll see the video. By the time this video comes out, you should have already seen the video talking about the SCA, or the SZA song. I keep on saying her name, SCA. But they're talking about the SZA song, that was in the wind, and what that actually means, and just breaking down one of the first few lines in that song, and spending so much time on just the few lines of, Jenny gave it all up for him, in terms of Jenny in the story of Forrest Gump, giving Forrest Gump some type of sexual access to her, even though Forrest Gump, by all means, did what he was quote unquote supposed to do as a man to quote unquote deserve that. It wasn't until Jenny was at one of her low points that she gave it to him, although she was giving up that type of access to other men freely, and with less barrier to, or a lower barrier to entry. And this is what this space is about. This is what the Red Pill Rage is about, because we as men were grown, or bred in a sense, or brainwashed to say things like, or to think things like, hey, I'm supposed to do this, this, and this for a woman, and then this should be the key to gain access to her sexually or relationship wise. And this is the main reason why I did that. The first video, why most of us should not be married, or something like that, or will not get married. I forgot the exact title, but it was the first video in this series. And in that video, he talked about Walt Disney being a hope dealer, and we start to deconstruct even that, or look at the Red Pill community, MGTOW community, Black Manosphere. We start to deconstruct those points, and we start to say, hey, this Disney fantasy is not reality. It is that. It is truly that. It is a fantasy. It is not something that is really grounded in any type of reality. It may be based on reality, but it's reality through, it's augmented reality, if anything. and it's augmented to a point. It's virtual reality. So you're immersed in this, and you're immersed in this thought process that women are a certain way and men should treat them based off of that, whereas women have matured past that, and their female nature has taken advantage of that and taken advantage of men that think that way on a regular basis. So when I see and hear people talk about how women deserve X, Y, and Z, or women should be this or that. This is where we have to really look at these Disney fantasies and how they have caused the destruction of a lot of relationships. They have caused the destruction of a lot of relationships based on the fact that a lot of relationships are based on these Disney fantasies, and they're just not real. They're just not real at all. They're totally fake. They're not based in reality. They're not based in nature versus nurture or anything else like that. They're not based in actual human behavior. They're not based in female behavior. They're not based in male behavior. They are all fantasies, and they really should come with a disclaimer like what you would see on a cigarette box. A lot of these things distort our reality and distort our actual view on other people. It's the same thing with gun violence in movies. Like we could look at gun violence in movies and video games and say, hey, there's a problem with this. A lot of people look at this as if it's a video game, especially when you're looking at the crime in Jacksonville and how people, or crime in Jacksonville and Chicago, and how people talk about the ops and upping the score. This is kind of like Trippie Redd and one of his latest songs, the Mr. Rage, and talking about missing the rage and talking about upping the score. Yeah, talking about him actually going ahead and killing one of his rivals and upping the score as if it's just another point on the scoreboard. And it's like, whoa, these are human beings. So that's the fantasy aspect of it. So if we can look at gun violence in that way and apply it to that and say, hey, listen, there's an issue with gun violence in our cities, in our communities, and this is based off of the desensitization. I say that word wrong every time, but the desensitization of gun violence, and just making it seem like it's just a toy or it's just a game. Then we can actually apply that even to relationships, and how men and women will look at relationships as somewhat of a game, as something like something that they can actually get over on the next person on, and things like that. So when you start to really make those, those correlations and really start to connect those dots, you start to see that the main issue with what we have to deal with on a regular basis is a programming brainwashing issue. And this is what we're actually trying to solve in the manosphere as a whole, and the Black manosphere specifically, with our own specialized unique problems that we have to deal with our women. So that's kind of like my red pill breakdown on what this space is about. This space is about not just information, or not just therapy, because it is a form of therapy. This is therapeutic for some men, because they're allowed to vent, they're allowed to talk about this, they're allowed to actually even evolve past some of these issues. I mean, to be honest, we're offering a lot of therapy to men, and we're offering a lot of appeasement to the male the male rage and anger that they have. And we're saying, Black man, look at this anger, use this anger, and find a better way to actually express this anger, and helping men to move, quote unquote, better. And that's kind of like that's like the main focus of what we're actually trying to do in the long run. I mean, I'm sorry, at the foundation of it all, I should say, say for instance, the 2.0. 1.0 is about addressing these grievances and getting that word out there, and really starting to point the finger at what we're seeing. And now when we're looking at 2 or 3.0, way of looking at it, or basically 2.0. Now we're trying to say, okay, hey, you see the problem. Now let's look at how we can solve it. Now we're getting into 3.0 where we're starting to get a little bit away from that, and we really start to looking at the terrain and saying, hey, this is how we're going to have to traverse this terrain and going into the future, and really gaming people up and getting them prepared. Really, it's kind of the boomers, Gen X's passing the torch onto the millennials so that we can actually be gamed up, so we can actually help out the Zs and the Alphas. And that's kind of what, that's kind of how I see it. I'll probably make another video about women in this space, because I do have some thoughts on that, and it's no malice to women, or not malice to every woman, I would say, because there's just some women that just deserve to be told, like, shut the fuck up, like, you don't really need to be here. And then there's some women where it's like, okay, you are the archetype for, you're the archetype for the what's it called? That could be the representation of distraction. And then also some women that would be the archetype of, oh, okay, you're the woman that is actually talking to other women, but the information, like, you're translating, or you're giving the female perspective on the manosphere talking points and things like that. So actually, I'll say it right now, the archetype for the vulnerability and distraction of our men in this space, and this is no slight to her, but this is mostly this says more about the men than it does say about the women, is Jessica X. And if we were to pocket watch, because it offers a metric, but if we were to pocket watch and compare her and her information, what she says, if you've been in this space long enough, what Jessica X says isn't anything new. Yet you see the type of engagement that she has, and you see the type of monetary engagement, and you also see the type of engagement in terms of comment section and chats. Then you look at somebody like BGS, who's been in this space and has given up so much game. You just don't see that same level of engagement monetarily, I would say. So that represents the vulnerability in men, and how something that BGS says or repeats quite a bit. And I think there's somebody that mentioned that this is from Barbar, or Barbarossa. If you guys ever want to, like, look into the 1.0 original Manosphere content, forefathers, pioneers, forerunners of the Manosphere, look up Barbar and Herabustophilia, hypergamy, and what he talked about. Stardusk, his older content, his channel is now The Thinking Ape. Just be prepared for the comment section and that, especially if you're a black man. There's a lot of, IQ splaining in there. But good content nonetheless, I feel. Chew the meat, spit out the bone with that. Don't be, get out of your fucking feelings when you go into that space. Just letting you know from now. But the point that's brought up quite often is, don't be, what's it called? A lot of men are one blowjob away from being blue pill again. And what that tells you is, how I like to say it is, a lot of men are blue pill and red pill face, they're wearing that red pill mask as if they're, this guy that is talking about these things and is really, quote unquote, about the life, if you will. And I think that's the vulnerability that Jessica X exposes. And what does that mean? That doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means that, I can see it. Like, I can, as Ed would say, I can see what you niggas is doing. I can see how you guys are acting, because then when we, when we compare that, and I want to use the word juxtapose, but when we compare that and put that side by side with the information and the quality of information and the frequency of information of a Kendra D, and again, this is not pitting them against each other. This is just comparing the two, and in terms of even pocket watching her and her engagement and things like that, it's not the same, and we can tell it's not the same. What that means is, in terms of audience and in terms of what men are actually looking at, a lot of dudes in this space they still want the pretty face, they still want the pretty package, and that's That's just the plain and simple of it. And again, this is what the red pill is about looking at these things and looking at ourselves and looking at our behaviors and calling it out in one way, shape, or form. I guess I don't have to make another video. I don't think I'll make another video about the women in this space. But then yeah, you look at a Kendra D, and then of course you look at other women in this space where they talk about they're trying to learn, they're trying to understand. Ed said it masterfully. Y'all bitches already know. Y'all understand. You guys don't. You women don't need to learn anything. You know what you're doing. I'm a big proponent. I'm a big person in terms of, or big in the mindset, or I'm of the mindset that don't take away a woman's agency. Don't take away the fact that she's saying one or two things or saying something. Don't take away any of that. Let them show exactly who they are and what they are actually about. Don't take away any of that. Make sure that they actually have it, that they are able to express themselves, and they say everything that they want. Give them the ability to to actually use their agency, and make sure that they can actually express themselves fully in their own motherfucking space. They don't have to do it over here. They can do it somewhere else. You don't have to be in these spaces. It's a luxury for women to even, it should be considered a luxury, but what men do is that we don't value these spaces, which is why we allow women to get into these spaces and we want to talk and, communicate with them. This is why I do understand totally that a purple pill space should be made for some men so that they can understand, and that it could be the meeting ground, if you will, and that women can actually be a part of, because even the purple pill space, even the blue pill space should still be made of men, and women should be a part of the conversation. But if it's a purple pill space and that's a meeting of the blue pill and the red pill, then again, that's an Edward Anderson idea and way of thinking. But those spaces, if they are to be shared, if they are to be, if people are to, have that conversation in those spaces and share that space, then it should be done in that manner. But it shouldn't be where women have, such a large, they shouldn't be growing in market share in this space, which is what we're seeing, is that a lot of women are actually growing in this space. And it's like, okay, that's great. I understand you're a unicorn, you're in the Walt or something like that. That's beautiful and we appreciate you, I guess. But it's really like, okay, go ahead and do that over there. Because if you want to build that, if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be that person that is a pioneer, or you want to be heard, and again, this is what it's all about, is that a lot of people just want to be heard, which is why they come to this red pill space and start stirring up a lot of shit. And they know nobody else anywhere, or there's no one else or no other spaces that are actually going to be listening to them. That's why they come here, and this is why we actually should be, we should know the value of this space. But a lot of people do not understand that this space is very important. This space actually people are listening to. This space has bred people like, I want to say not bred, but catapulted people like Kevin Samuels, allowed him to sharpen his arguments and allow him to be the force that he actually is currently. He is definitely the best of us, and and he's definitely a general in my eyes, no matter if I disagree with him on certain points. Because even the small disagreements I have, the message is greater than the messenger. So his message and what he's saying, I'm all for it, because at the core of it, at the foundation of it, it's built on our message. And we all know that the people that have been in this space for a quite a bit of time, because I've only been in the Black Manosphere for probably about 4 years, probably since 2017 into 2016. And I've been in the MGTOW space for a little bit longer than that, probably like 7 years or something like that. So, with all that being said, I mean, that's what I think about women in this space. This space in general is an emotional space. Women in this space, they should not have the large market share that they do. And what that shows me is that the men in this space don't even respect this space, and they also don't respect the men that actually have grown this space to the point that it is. And I take that personally. I have problems with that, and that's kind of like at the core of why that's one of the core reasons why I feel women in this space is to our detriment. And if anything, women should only be allowed in this space in maybe a reactionary manner. And even so, it should be if they are allowed, they should be limited. I do understand something like that what Ed says quite a bit, which is allowing them to speak and get their point out and things like that. But besides that, we've heard it so many times on BGS's panel when he allowed women on, and then push that off to or spun that off into the BGS for Women's channel. We saw quite a bit that the women would actually come in, and if their point was not accepted, they thought that they weren't allowed to talk, or so on and so forth. Make no mistake, I look at women in this space as reconnaissance. They're gathering intel. I say this all the time. I will just not believe this or not say this. I don't know how to say it. But I mean, I will say that all the time. Anytime I see a woman in this space, I will automatically think that she's here for reconnaissance. There's very few women where they do not get that actual, if they were a snake and they bit me, I would be like, oh, well played, good sir. There's very few women that I can actually say that about. Kendra D would definitely be one of them. As I know her, fish grease, when she was cooking motherfuckers in the Coliseum and in other spaces as well, like Angry Man's channel and stuff like that. So when I hear this, man, and I see these things going on with this space, one, this space is emotional. Two, women in this space should be looked at with a side eye. And there's a few people that are sanctioned. All right, I kind of took the two videos that I was going to do and put it into one. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed the view. Oh, only 27 minutes. I thought it was like 40 minutes. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the view and the sunrise, I guess. That's kind of cool. Or not the sunrise, but the lighting up of the yard. All right, as always, I appreciate you all. Please be safe, and I wish you all the best. And, hey, listen, man, if you're not taking what I say with a grain of salt, you're low in sodium. Do your research. Go back into the catalog of BGS. Go back into the catalog of Barbar, also known as Barbarossa. Go back into the catalog of The Thinking Ape. Some of these other guys that are in the space, I do not recognize them as prominent members in the space. There are others, but those are the guys that I listen to and I quote unquote grew up on and evolved on in this in my journey to become MGTOW. And this is why I still say MGTOW, and it is what it is on that. Anyways, thank you very much. Peace.